Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Q Points podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's happening, people?
This is me. It is not a hologram. This is not a repeat. This is a brand new episode of Q Points, and I am so glad to be back on the air chair, as they used to say on the radio back in the days. On the air chair with you, my homie Jay Ray. How you been, sir?
I've been great, man. It has been a busy time, but a great time. Stuff at work is moving dope. Though I will say this, what has been weird though is the weather. It's like 66 degrees here yesterday and today. It's apparently summer. This is unlike any summer I've ever felt before.
Listen, Mother Nature is, I'm fantastic. I'm rejuvenated, and Mother Nature is doing the same thing down here in Atlanta. We are now like in this weird fall, springtime kind of cycle with rain and everything, but hopefully that'll clear up soon so we can enjoy the summertime in its full extent. But what you all are going to enjoy right now is this episode, because Jay Ray, when I tell you, I'm busting at the seams right now because I can't wait to get into the topic that we're about to discuss, and I cannot wait to speak with our special guest. But Jay Ray, before we do any of that, remind the listener how to keep in contact with us and so that they can get all of this Q Points goodness that is available to them.
So y'all can make sure that y'all stay in touch with Q Points by wherever you're watching or listening right now. Right? So you can just hit the subscribe button. It's a very simple thing of hitting subscribe, and you can do us a solid by sharing the show with your friends and with your family, those folks who you are like, listen, these are my people who like Black music like me. So they share it with them. Let them know about Q Points, right? So you can actually go to our website, become a Q Points Insider by clicking the subscribe button on our website. That gets you access to a lot of stuff behind the scenes, including all of our archived shows. So we are on show 105 right now, which means that we have 92 shows that you can't see right now. So you can see them if you become a Q Points Insider, which is really dope.
I'm always impressed that you can do that you just so quickly off the top of your head know numbers.
Right. I think I'm wrong with that. I think it's really supposed to be 93, but whatever. Okay. I'm close. I'm so close, right?
I believed it. It's fine. It's
fine. And you can also shop our store there at store.qpoints.com and become a member on our mailing list at magazine.qpoints.com. Stay in touch with all the things, y'all.
Absolutely. So before we bring on our guests, I want to give a quick shout out to Kat over at A Fly Girl's World on IG for blessing the kid with one of her fresh old school circa 1973 shirts. I got another T-shirt as well. I actually won a contest, J Ray.
Oh,
They
tell us about it.
over at a Fly Girls World on IG, they're very much about celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop as well. So what she's done is created like a time capsule, a voice memo time capsule, if you will, of people just calling in and sharing hip hop memories. And based on the fact that I sent in one, big mouth me, I called in and shared some memories about, growing up in Brooklyn and how hip hop impacted me. And I got picked and I won a T-shirt. I not only won a T-shirt, but I've bought T-shirts from her before. Really dope, really representing the culture in the best possible way. So shout out to Kat and her crew and the Fly Girls World over on IG. Go ahead and check them out. Those are our peoples, and thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Yes.
And with that being said, our guest, J Ray. Well, first of all, he's not really a guest because he's family.
His family, and he's been here before, but we're going to introduce him anyway. You know what I mean?
He knows where the to go. He can go in the refrigerator. Right. He knows how to. We have some sweet tea in the cupboard for him already, so he can go ahead and make his own. I'm not making it. You can go make your own sweet tea. That's how you treat people that aren't guests, that are family. So tonight's special guest is our friend Dr. Ed Garnes. Dr. Ed Garnes is one of the most dynamic therapists, educators, and life consultants in America. Yes. A doctoral internship trainee of Cal Berkeley. He holds a PhD from the University of Tennessee, a master's in arts and counseling at Michigan State University, an MA in psychology from University of Tennessee, a BA in English writing with minors in Black studies, Mass Comm at DePauw University. My guy is Alphabet City with the books behind him. So Dr. Garnes has worked extensively with diverse individuals and groups. He curates interventions keenly aware of the impact race, ethnicity, gender identity, religion, socioeconomic background, and disability status have on values, interests, and skills that directly impact academic, career, and psychosocial development. Intergenerational supporters champion his ability to channel his grandmother's Southern wisdom, observational humor, and sobering life lessons as an activist into practical strategies for personal development. He is also co-host of the podcast, The Reclamation Point. So, without further ado, J Ray, let's bring on our brother, friend, Dr. Ed Garnes, holding up back up an ice sweet tea. How you doing, Dr. Ed?
Man, it's a family reunion. I feel like family, and eventually we gonna have to do the back channel, J Ray, to find out if we're really cousins, because J Ray and I discovered that we may be family, really family.
Yes, that was so surprising coming from the things you learn. The importance of. Let's take a moment. The importance of attending family events, funerals, and being around folks teaches us a lot, because those programs, you learn all types of stuff. And so you start to see things. And so, Ed and his mom actually called me one day and was like, there's a name in here that's your name. So we need to figure this thing out.
Yes.
Yes. I love that kind of stuff. It's like a surprise on Christmas morning. So I want to hear more about that later on. So hopefully you guys will follow up. But Dr. Ed Garnes, how have you been? I feel like, has it been a year, J Ray, since we had the brothers on?
September.
Was it?
Wow.
You all were the first people to interview us before the first episode even aired of Reclamation Point. So that was in September. I looked before we started, because I'm old too. I was like, they're gonna ask me that. So it was September.
Wow.
Since then, you and Motown Lee have been on a course, just like the trajectory has been all the way up. What else has been going on with you?
Well, besides that Reclamation Point, I mean, I get emotional because anytime that Black man get love, I just feel funny inside. So in a good way. So it's good to receive that love. I'll be joining a new therapy practice soon. So I can't really say anything about it now, but that just happened. So
Awesome.
praise the Lord on that.
Amen.
I've actually joined the leadership council of Cal Narrative Project, so I'm very excited to continue working with J. Ray in our leadership and community capacities. So that has me very excited because I get to practically apply everything I know about Black men,
Mhm.
but actually have some real impact that's sustainable, for me. Because as a therapist and as a brother myself, I got to be involved in things of love, because when I'm involved in things that have a love ethic, I'm better for it.
Absolutely. And I'm super happy and excited to have you on this particular episode because we've got a lot of stuff to cover. We have a main topic,
Woo!
Mhm.
Yeah.
but as Jerry and I always do, we do a little delving into some stuff, some timely things that are going on. And I'm so glad that we can have your clinical point of view as we discuss a couple things. So first and foremost, I think by the time everybody that's watching this in real time and will overhear this in our reruns, we all know that the crew of the Titan
Mhm.
submarine party that went on that mission or went on that what would you
An
call that? Was that
expedition,
just
I
an
guess.
expedition, a
Yeah.
tour of the Titanic wreck? I mean, it's the Coast Guard has called it that they
Yeah.
believe that the vehicle has imploded and
Mhm.
everybody on board has been lost. Of course, we offer our sympathy and our
Yes.
condolences to the families of everybody involved because J. Ray, just a thought about it. When I first heard the story, when I got back from vacation,
Mhm.
my anxiety went straight through the roof
Yeah.
because as a very tall person, I don't like being in spaces that feel constricting. So I can't even imagine bolting myself in
Yes.
to a this is going to sound real bad, but to a tube like a Red Bull can
Right.
and bolting myself into that and just going along with nothing but vibes and prayers to explore.
Yeah, bruh. It's my anxiety when I saw the size of the vessel was
Mm,
like, and I texted you. I was like, I could not. It's not that I don't. I have a little bit of an adventurous spirit. I don't know that I'm that adventurous. When I looked at the diagrams of how low they went, I was like, oh baby, that's
absolutely
like,
not.
whoa, that's really far. And so I was having heart palpitations about that. So I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine, to your point, getting in a vessel that small with a lot of people to go that deep scares the bejesus out of me. And it's really sad um, that those folks, got lost, and their families don't have as much closure as
Yeah.
sometimes we would want to have, in these situations. So definitely want to send love out to those folks.
And two of the people on board were father and son. And I can't even
Yes.
imagine the
Yep.
guilt he was feeling knowing that he brought along his
His
19-year-old
19-year-old
son
son.
who is just beginning life
Yeah.
on this expedition, thinking, oh, this is going to be cool. This is going to be an experience that we share, only for it to be their demise. And, Dr. Garnes, at this point, like, I really don't know what more to say about it. It's just really super sad. I do have a question about how people grieve in
Mm-hmm.
certain instances like this. When the news broke, of course, I tweeted the other day on Twitter, and the tweet went viral. Black people, no, I said Black Twitter. If there's one thing that we're going to do, we're always going to be unserious.
Yes.
And unserious is not a word. I know. Don't get up in my DMs about it. But it's a term that we use. It's a colloquialism that we use on Twitter to talk about how we look for levity in everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some people were debating the fact that, hey, that's not cool that you guys are cracking jokes and trying to find humor in this situation. But then there are other people on the other side of that coin that are saying, don't judge people for the way they grieve publicly for public disasters, because this is a public disaster, no different than, say, when the towers came down, the World Trade Towers came down. So how do you, is there a rule of thumb about grieving in these instances for public tragedies that everybody is experiencing at the same time?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because psychological stuff is always at play. So what you're describing, the levity that Black people have, is actually a psychological strength. My mentor, the godfather of Black psychology, lists certain psychological strengths that we have as Black people. And the levity you speak of is that psychological strength of having a gallows sense of humor, laughing to keep from crying. Langston Hughes even had a collection called Laughing to Keep from Crying, right? Because that levity helps us psychologically deal with trauma and traumatic things. So what you're seeing at play is just a psychological strength for Black people. It's misinterpreted when you are not of the culture. So, laughing at a funeral, we know we gonna tell some jokes when Ray passed. Remember that time he went to the liquor store?
I got a story I'm about to tell in like 2 minutes.
So that levity is a gallows sense of humor. So that's a psychological strength. So that doesn't surprise me about Black people, but outsiders would see that that levity as disrespect. I see it as the psychological strength playing itself out. But that tingly feeling, I don't know if y'all got some kind of emotions about seeing, constantly getting the updates. What I was experiencing, and what a lot of folks are experiencing, is called anticipatory grief, right? So we're grieving something in anticipation of something. We don't know how this is going to end. So those mixed emotions and those feelings are anticipatory grief. And I look at grief from a Black psychological standpoint. So I don't look at it in a Eurocentric way. We grieve in stages, and we get here, and then we bargain. You could have several moments and stages of grief in an hour, in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes. So I don't think we have to tell people how to grieve, but grief normally is a gut check to see what psychological strengths we have, and then to also check in on our mental health in other areas. Because when grief hits us, we're not just grieving the loss that is there, we're grieving several losses, and losses don't have to be death. So that's what I thought about from a psych perspective, is anticipatory grief is all over the place. And now that their deaths have been called by the powers that be, now you're really dealing with the reality that, your loved ones are gone. The tricky thing for me from a psychological standpoint is we're also seeing privilege and cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is just a fancy way of saying that disconnect between your behaviors, what you know, how you act, what you think. So that disconnect of having the privilege and the resources to do something is not always good. Because just because I can get and create this particular makeshift submarine doesn't mean I should have done it. And so I'm also reconciling with the fact that cognitive dissonance is at play, because I was a former engineering major, y'all, and I looked at some of the old videos leading up to it. I mean, it's a lot of little basic engineering things that gave me some alarm. So, I just send, positive vibes to the family. But when you have disposable income, it's very important that cognitive dissonance not take over, because you end up making decisions to your detriment.
Wow. I love that perspective. Something real, J-Ray, I want you to tell your story, but something just unlocked for me. As Black people witnessing this, maybe we had some type of collective flashback of when we were in the bottom of the ships crossing the Atlantic.
Yes.
Real talk is in our DNA. Like,
Mike, hey.
Listen, the reason why I can't swim, by the way, and Black people do need to learn how to swim. Michi Miko said to me directly, you need to learn how to swim. It's important for you to know that. So to our Q Points family, to the folks that are listening, to all of us here, for those of us, we need to learn how to swim, right? We need to know how to do it, right? But that is a thing that I think is true. Like that idea of just the being underwater in the dark, close
Mhm.
together in that close packed thing. I have no interest in that. I have zero interest in experiencing it. And so my story. So this is really funny. And Ed, you made me think of this. So I was at a funeral, as you know, that happens. I was at my great aunt's funeral in North Carolina, actually. And I was sitting in front of her granddaughters, right? So the minister was ministering. And I was catching some things because that language was real weird. So the minister at some point said, "Thesis." And I said, "Huh." So one of the granddaughters leaned forward and said, "Did he say thesis?" And he said it again. He said thesis, and I turned. And I said, "Yes, he did." And we were cackling. Now this is her grandchildren. We are there. But we're together. We're having a moment together, being black folks at a funeral. Like, did he say thesis? Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. I love nothing more than inappropriate laughter.
Yes.
It warms my cold, dark heart when I am cackling and I know that I'm not supposed to be laughing. And if you try to tell me not to laugh, it's gonna make me laugh even more.
Right.
And we're just gonna have to deal with it and let it. I believe the vibrations of laughter shakes off all kinds of bad vibes off of our bodies. That's just another. So I love it. I love a good laugh and a kiki. So let's pivot.
Yes.
That's kind of a heavy subject to start off on. I want to acknowledge our friends that are tuning in, including Carlton and Mark McPherson. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. I also see that the good Reverend Dr. Minister Mashawn D. Simon is watching as well.
What's up, Mashawn?
So shout out to him. He's very he now if he knows how much I love inappropriate laughter, anybody knows it's Mashawn. So this whole thing about being in the ocean, we didn't know anything about this until we got back on land, because we were on a 7-day cruise. We went to the to Central Caribbean, Cozumel, Belize, Honduras, and Coco Cay in the Bahamas. Absolutely wonderful trip, phenomenal. I love swimming in the ocean. J-Ray, you have got to learn how to swim because you need to experience swimming in the ocean. And I have always been obsessed with the water. I have such a great respect for it. That's why when I heard about this expedition, it just weirded me out, because I would sit on our balcony and I would eat my breakfast and I would just have me and God time and just look at the water and just imagine everything that's going on underneath it. Yeah. And sometimes just thinking about the what ifs, like what would happen if somebody fell over, how the ship would have to maneuver, how sometimes those things just don't work out well. But other than that, I just had a really good time. I absolutely hate Fort Lauderdale's airport. I'm going on record saying that. Absolutely hate it. It is the worst. The Burger King in that terminal, in that gate that we were at, owes me money and owes me a meal.
And when you go back 2 years from now, you be like, y'all owe me money from 2 years ago when I was here.
Y'all owe me money and a meal because of the grilling machine caught on fire. It was just ridiculous, and all the weather. It's funny, getting to a vacation is always wonderful. You have all that anticipation built up in you, but when it's time to go home, people are ready to go home. Especially if you're out with friends, y'all are kind of getting on each other's nerves. You ready to go home in your own bed, but here goes Mother Nature, carrying on, delaying our flight for a good 7 hours. It was, just not the way you want to end a good vacation, but. Yes, I had a great time, guys. Thank you for asking. I saw some people asked about me and everything. But we are going to shift gears. Guys, if you know anything about J-Ray loves technology.
I do. Absolutely
loves technology, and all he needs is some sort of new toy to play with. J.
Yes.
Ray, what has Google come up with that you want us Q points to play around with?
Well, okay, so we do have to, and let us know in the chat, or if you're listening to this show, let us know by shooting us a message if you want us to play with it live. But Google has done a new music AI tool. I need to get the name of the tool right, because that matters. But anyway, Q Points has been granted access to this new AI tool. But let me tell you what it does. You can literally type in what you want Google's AI to create for you. So, for instance, I typed in a 1970s soul slow jam with guitars, and it returned two options that I'm like, I'd listen to these songs. These are not real songs. It is literally AI generated songs. And they have this new tool in the AI test kitchen that you can work with. It's actually, if you Google's AI test kitchen, you can get access to it. But yeah, they have a new music creation tool that will literally, you type in a phrase, it'll spit back out a version of what you asked it to create. It is crazy how accurate it is. It's weird, y'all.
What was the turnaround like?
Oh, a minute?
Get out of here. Wow.
That's how serious this AI thing has gotten, y'all. That there is a tool out there that can turn around in a minute a thing that you've asked for. So it's called Music LM, by the way, is what the title is now. And you literally could type it in. So if y'all want to come watch Q Points play with the Music LM tool live and see what it creates and listen to it, we can certainly do that. But Ed, what are your thoughts on kind of the AI? Because there's so many AI things that are happening. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, when you were talking, this something just came over my body. I'm like, just intellectual property, legal. Yeah. Who's the producer? Mm-hmm. Who gets rights, royalty payments? You know, I have to say that my brain thinks like a owner of a music publishing company. That really comes from Brother Bohannon, the 70s funk superstar, mm-hmm. Right? Yes. Everything I know about intellectual property and ownership came from Mr. Bohannon. And I just hear him saying, okay, Ed, who's owning what? You know what right. I'm saying? So even though, you know, it's a good thing and but man, just the IP implications on ownership, royalties, payments, people getting pimped for their publishing. I mean, who owns what? It's just a dangerous slope. Dangerous slope.
And the Grammys last week, Sir Daniel, actually, while you were away, released an update to their rules to say that only human creators can be eligible for a Grammy. Now, but here's the thing. Human creators are using AI now, right?
Yeah, I see.
So we got a lot, y'all. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Have they said anything about the whole TikTok? Remember I said they were going to come up possibly with a TikTok category?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if a TikTok category showed up soon. Yeah.
It's definitely coming. So, speaking of Grammys and hip hop, the Hip Hop Caucus, we received the email from them, and the Hip Hop Caucus is standing with D Barnes with regards, and all Black women, with regards to how basically Dr. Dre has gone 30 plus years without full I guess accountability of what he did to D Barnes and how he assaulted her and ruined her career. And on top of that, has been awarded countlessly, not only by accolades and money off of albums sold and constant, um, being one of those producers that are in high demand in hip hop. But he's also been rewarded on several occasions from different bodies, like the Grammys and
Mm-hmm.
other organizations that give him, acknowledgement for his craft. And what the hip hop caucus is saying, and they're an organization that watches all the things that are happening in hip hop on a intellectual,
Mm-hmm.
socio-political side. They're like a watchdog group,
Mm-hmm.
and they're taking into account all of these things that are happening, and they're the ones that are finally saying enough,
Yes.
enough, enough, enough. Guys like Dr. Dre, a lot of gentlemen in the hip hop game are probably going to start receiving some type of public retribution for the things that they have done.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just wondering, like, so Dr. Ed, how do you feel? What kind of ripple effect will this have on the community, the hip hop community, and the Black community at large?
Yeah, all praise is due to the hip hop caucus. I'm personally shocked. You know what I'm saying? And I'm shocked in a good way because we all know from following hip hop. I mean, I'm 46, so I got it
Mm-hmm.
for 46 years. You know, it was
Yep.
out 4 before I was born. But you know, hip hop has a patriarchy problem, just like the United States of America and globally, right? And
Facts.
so hip hop's dirty secret is the misogyny that still exists in Black women having control over their lives, their
Mm-hmm.
sexuality. Hip hop has always been oppressive to women in
Mm-hmm.
many of its aspects. So the fact that this has happened, I hope it frees people that have power within hip hop culture to start holding people accountable. You know, when I look at hip hop, I think about sisters holding it down. You know what I'm saying? I think about MC Light. I think
Mm-hmm.
about Queen Latifah. I think about the sister who was even over Sugar Hill Records, the first commercial
Sylvia
released
Robinson.
in
Yeah.
hip hop, Sylvia Robinson, right? So women have always been the backbone of hip hop, but we have not loved them enough to shout them out and speak for them publicly. So I think that this public shout out has the ability to have not only retribution but a redistribution of wealth that puts Black women in their proper place in the discipline of hip hop.
Man, thank you so much for that. And you're absolutely right. One of the conversations that Sir Daniel and I have been having during the Hip Hop 50 conversation is we've been pleasantly surprised at how hip hop has elevated women to like the forefront. And I remember Questlove when we were the Grammy performance, and he was like, "We actually did consider a all women lineup. Like we were like seriously like that's probably the direction we'll take this." So it's been great watching during this 50th anniversary. I do think there's a bit of a reckoning with the impact of women on the culture and the treatment of women within the culture. And so yeah, both Sir Daniel and I agree. We were so surprised when we got this email like, wait, what? No one's ever been as plain as saying what they said and using the term thus that is a slap in the face to Black women and other women of color who had to fight over the last handful of decades to rewrite the tolerance of gendered violence and build a space for themselves when they should have been welcomed in the first place. Like I'm like, oh, y'all are serious. And then we have a great interview between Sister D Barnes and Dawn Richard, where Sister D gets the opportunity to talk about one, her contribution and sit in it, like, and own her contribution. Like, no, I was 19, 20 years old building a platform. You know what I'm saying? Having a group, building a platform, putting people on, and and owning that she should be celebrated for that, right? At a time when hip hop was still new to pop culture. So this is great. So we'll make sure that we post the Hip Hop Caucus's letter in the description so that folks can check it out because it is quite important.
I did want to say something about D Barnes. We've never like really given her the flowers, recognition financial support, counseling that she needed to manage this particular tragedy that happened to her. When I think about when I first started my show, I had a show in college that I inherited from another brother called The Underground, right? And so D Barnes, Arnell Starr, they had a local show in Atlanta. Give
American Rap Makers.
Yeah, American Rap Makers. So people like him and D Barnes were very critical in me understanding, hey, I can take this culture, I can interview folks. And so she was very inspirational to me, but to have her left out of the history. Like when we talk about hip hop journalism, we don't talk about her. When we talk about contributions to the culture and women being the backbone of hip hop, she's left out. And she's left out because she challenged the system. You know, like when you challenge the system, and unfortunately, when you challenge traditional and toxic masculinity, there's a price to pay. And we should have been there for her in more ways than we have.
Thank you so much for that, Ed. You're absolutely right. And along those lines of women in hip hop and backbones of hip hop and what we've been seeing this year, this is a shifting of gears a little bit, but listen, Queen Latifah has been behind the mic more than we've seen her behind the mic in many years. You know, we've seen her on screen, of course, with The Equalizer, which is one of my guilty pleasures, but she's been on stages, and especially now in the kind of interim, and she's being honored by the Kennedy Center. So there's 2 Black women being honored by the Kennedy Center this year, and they're both from Jersey. We have Sister Queen Latifah, and we have the great, as DJ Sir Daniel would say, the doll, Miss Dionne Warwick is also being honored for the Kennedy Center. And yo, you can't pick 2 better choices. So shout out to Jersey and shout out to Queen La and Miss Warwick.
Jersey definitely has to stand up. I cannot wait to see who is designated to pay homage, because the live performance is always the best part of these Kennedy Center honors. So I can only imagine, you know, I'm thinking that they're probably going to pick some of her contemporaries and maybe a couple of newbies to honor both Dionne and Queen Latifah. And I know it's going to be a great celebration. And of course, this is all culminating because of hip hop celebrating 50 years. So I'm all for it. I'm happy to see it. I can't think of anybody else also deserving of these types of honors.
Yeah, man. This is a moment.
This is definitely a moment.
This is They Reminisce Over You. I'm Miguel.
And I'm Christina.
They Reminisce Over You is a podcast that celebrates and honors the best in music, movies, and TV from the past.
We get into the careers and legacies of some of the biggest names in hip-hop, R&B, and pop culture. From discussing the groundbreaking music of Missy Elliott and Mary J. Blige,
to exploring iconic moments in TV and film like the chaos at the 95 Source Awards. They Reminisce Over You has something for everyone.
So join us as we reminisce over the artists, movies, and TV shows that have shaped our lives and continue to influence popular culture today.
We came here for a conversation. So, so tonight's main topic is about the lack of songs and music about Black fathers and fatherhood, right? We see a bit more for songs about fatherhood, but definitely not really about Black fathers. So here's the thing. Okay, so here's how this came up. So Father's Day just happened, and it was a beautiful day. You know, posted some letters, you know what I'm saying, from dads. It was doing the whole thing, right? In it. Made a post about my dad, revisiting a letter that I wrote about my father in 2016. An article that I wrote about my dad actually 2 days before he passed away. And I wanted a song. I was like, I need a song to post this about my dad. And I could not find a loving song by a black artist, a black man specifically, about their father. I was able to find a couple around fatherhood, like Will Smith's, just the two of us or whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't really apply to what I'm doing. So I ended up stuck with, it's not a bad song, but I ended up stuck with Wind Beneath My Wings by Gerald Levert and Eddie Levert. Great song. Gerald and Eddie, father and son. That song was not written, you know what I'm saying, for this purpose, but I used that song. So I had a problem. So I reached out to DJ Sir Daniel and I was like, this is a problem. And we were like, okay, this is a show. And we got to have Dr. Ed on. So thank you, Dr. Ed, for being here to talk about this topic. But I have a theory. So here's my theory, that patriarchy, let me take a step back. I saw a lot of pictures of artists with their fathers. So I know that there are a lot of artists out there that have relationships with their dad. They're talking about how they love their dad, how they're spending time with their dad today, da-da-da. And these are musicians, right? So my theory is that we inadvertently kind of perpetuate this narrative of black fathers being absent by accident, because I think patriarchy makes it difficult for black men to emotionally connect enough to like sing songs about their fathers. There are plenty of songs about mom, right? Because there's a way that, you're able to deeply connect and say you love your mom and express your love for how your mom has supported you. But I'm wondering if patriarchy makes it difficult for men to do that with their fathers, because we don't do that. And so that's my theory. My theory is they don't exist because dudes are like, they don't know how to do it. So I'm curious to Dr. Ed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I mean, when you were talking, I was just, all over this. Yes, this has a lot to do with patriarchy and how masculinity is constructed, especially here in America. There's not a lot of elasticity to masculinity. So that's the first problem, right? So there's a systematic issue because we get our definitions as black men from white men, right? So these flawed notions of being violent, having power, dominating everyone, including women in our lives, right? So those toxic notions were given to us, right? And so we have embraced some of those. So the first problem that we have is systematic. How do we break down and create progressive images of masculinity for black men to feel comfortable emoting? And then the other systematic thing is that they don't want any progressive images for black men in any system that does not fulfill the stereotypical mission, right? Because when you take the father out of the home, look at welfare systems that were designed on taking and destroying black families, right?
Yes.
So there's always been a systematic intervention to have some separation from the father in the black family. But there are too many examples that exist, right? So you got to get through this masculinity thing and have enough models in your life of progressive masculinity to be able to speak to these things. But I don't know these black men that they speak of. All of my brothers, I don't care what job they have, whether they PhD or if they graduated on lauded instead of cum laude, you know what I'm saying? They are involved in their children's lives. I'll give you two fathers that most of us know. I'm only using an example because most people would know these fathers in hip hop. I give you Stick from Dead Prez, and I give you Killer Mike. I have watched these brothers and looked at the sacrifices that they made, how they talk about their kids, how they love on their kids. But those are the posts that we don't focus on, right? Stick always has these beautiful moments with his child where he's exposing him to different things, karate. He has a son that's a producer, right? But we don't give credence to that because we've bought into these stereotypical notions. So even though it's in our face, we don't give a voice to it. When I start thinking about what you were saying, I was trying to look for, I talk about my dad all the time.
Yeah.
But what's funny, J. Ray, everywhere I have gone, they have tried to write my father out of my story. When I started my PhD program, I was asked, how was he growing up in a single parent household? I was like, my dad was president, had a master's in counseling like me, graduated from Morehouse, valedictorian of his high school. A day is named in East Point and Garnes Senior Day for what he did to the community. I don't know an absent father. I don't know anybody in my crew that had an absent father. So when I start to think about those things, I'm like, this is strategic. But also, when we were talking offline, I looked at the NFL draft, the NBA draft is going on. When I say it's systematic, you had several of the top NFL draft picks, fathers there. The camera was strategically placed off of them. And when they're standing there with their son right next to them, whether the journalist was white, black, person of color, they did not allow the fathers to speak. So we talk about systematic, we have to deal with systems, because systems is how you change issues. You can't fight issues without systematic change. So that showed me that there's a deliberate notion to silence black men and black fathers from the equation. And then also, using a sports metaphor, coaches hate strong black fathers because the kids cannot be manipulated by white supremacy. So if you want to recruiters that recruit for sports, you want to see them upset, have a strong black father and watch how they have an inability to deal with that. In my work with counseling athletes, the athletes that do the best have strong black role models, but I cannot tell you how many times they have talked about coaches and systems that have had a problem with their fathers being in their lives. So when we spill over to music, imagine the power of a Dear Papa.
Right.
Do you know what that was systematically changed? The psychology behind having a Dear Papa song? Woo! That's some stuff that we don't even want to see. Because what it does, because you have to think, if a system is built on a lie, if we have these progressive images of black men, the whole system crumbles.
Falls apart. Yeah.
Music, banking, pick a system, it crumbles because the jig is up. It's all been a lie.
And it's too much money to be lost if that system falls apart, because we're talking about holidays that, if you look at Mother's Day rakes in billions of dollars, right?
Yep.
Father's Day is a far seventh place when it comes to that. And I don't know what's not to gain by putting emphasis on fathers. I mean, people spend all kinds of ridiculous amounts of money on taking dad to games and things that are supposed, traditionally fathers are supposedly supposed to love and enjoy. I don't know a man how many ties one person can have, or if you need another tool set
right
each and every Father's Day. But here's the thing. Here's an observation that I've made. Recently, there's a shift, and Dr. Ed, I don't know if you've seen this. There's a shift in the younger generation of men allowing themselves to be present, or to be softer, as it were, to enjoy things in life, to enjoy moments, to that and J-Ray and I joke about this stuff all the time. There's like a place on Twitter where if a man does something simple as eating with a knife and fork, why are you as a man eating with a knife and fork, J-Ray? Huh?
Because I'm a human being who don't want to get mess all over me. Leave me alone now.
But J-Ray, why are you as a man washing with soap all over your body? What is that about? So we had these messages, and unfortunately now a lot of those messages are being reinforced by women, by our sisters, by our mothers, by partners. And so it's really kind of sad that, I don't know, it's this double-edged sword where we want to be loved, but we don't know how to express that. And you would think that musicians, especially, would have that skill set to be able to express um, love for their father. But like you said, patriarchy says that you cannot express love
Mhm.
for another man, and then that evolves into disliking everything feminine, and that evolves into homophobia. And so it's just a really sad state for a man to be in at this present time. And back to the music conversation. Yes, when J Ray and I had this conversation about finding music at the establishment I play at for
Mhm.
dinner, I wanted something to play for the people that were bringing their fathers out for dinner at this establishment. And couldn't maybe I found two songs, didn't even play them because I played one, and that was Angie Stone's Brother, and that's not even really a
Right.
Father's Day song. That's
Yeah.
just, her an anthem for her, giving it up to her strong Black brothers, and that's fine. But I just think that if musicians, and I think we might see something in the future, because like I said, this generation is tapping in
Mhm.
to something that our generation and the ones before us weren't able to tap into before, and that is to create a connection and intimacy among Black
Yes.
men. And I don't know, how do we, Dr. Ed, foster that on a daily basis when it's just so hard? We had I'm not even gonna get into that. I'm not gonna get into that. But how do we foster that amongst each other when we make it so hard for each other just to
Oof.
foster that kind of
Yeah. It's
intimacy and
funny
love amongst
because
each other?
even when we say, I'm gonna be a progressive man, we're
Mhm.
still we're still so toxically masculine that the emotions can't come out. You're
Right.
like, what, I'm gonna talk about my father. No, I can't because society says no. So what I have tried to do in my life is to be a model for other brothers to come to me when they feel weak, when they need to emote. So I have tried to live my life in a way where I try to model certain behaviors for Black men. So I will talk about, my weaknesses. I will talk about my failures. I try to be as vulnerable as possible to attract other brothers that are going through the same thing, to give them a space to talk. One of the things that we don't give a lot of credence to, most of the time when you look at your childhood, you look at even your adulthood, a lot of times we as Black men are penalized when we are
Yes.
vulnerable. And so those penalties and having to pay that emotional and psychological tax of being penalized for stepping outside of masculinity rules, we get lost. And so
Mhm.
what happens? Those penalties prevent us from full expression. I'm guilty of it, and I even study masculinity. My dissertation is on Black men and masculinity. And I still have to fight through those toxic notions of not being able to feel like I can be weak and express myself. So what I have tried to do, all of my work is about Black men. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like the 90% of the things that I do involve supporting and mentoring other brothers. And I will say, if I could take and have a show about the Black men that I counsel, most of them talk about not feeling appreciated, always feeling they have to contribute something great to even be loved, that they
Mm.
cannot be taken as is. So imagine the psychological and emotional prison of living your life not believing that you have to do something, like you have to do something great. I got to tap dance, I got to buy a house, I got to get a Lexus just to be appreciated, right? And so in order to knock down those walls, we have to create safe spaces for brothers to land. And when we create those safe spaces for brothers to land, we get rid of a lot of the psychological dysfunction that's trapped. A lot of Black men's anxiety and depression issues are really rooted in feeling like they do not have support, and then an inability. Help seeking is a muscle. So when I go and say I need help, we
Mhm.
underestimate that is a social skill and a social psychological skill that has to be developed. So if anything I try to do for Black men is to demonstrate and model what help-seeking behavior looks like.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting about this, and thank you so much for laying that out. In particular, the things that impact us psychologically, because I think sometimes we forget that brothers have we have emotions, and have often been forced to tamp them down. And I think I'll speak for me. I'm glad I've gotten to the point where I can communicate like out loud better and explain when I feel hurt or upset, because it helps and it takes so much off. One of the things I found particularly interesting, and Sir Daniel and I talked about this as we were preparing for this show, there are men who do write about their dads, and most of them are in country music. So there's white men in country music who often will write a song about their father, right? And so when you look up songs about fathers, you will typically get a whole list of like country songs where these men are writing about fathers. And I think fatherhood, right? Because that's a whole other thing. So I do think there is something that we can draw from how to do it, because to the point of the muscle, right? You have to know how to write a song about your father. Child, just listen to what Beyonce did. I think that's a good example, right, of how to do this. But I think we have to start flexing the muscle of how do we build and communicate deeper about the relationships that we have with the men in our lives, including our fathers. So we have to exercise the muscle.
Yeah, and I when I was preparing for this, I was like, what is something that made me in the artistic world really understand a deep connection to fatherhood? Well, Robert Hayden had a poem called Those Winter Sundays, where he talked about all the sacrifices that his father did that he did not see as love. But in actuality, even though he as a Black man couldn't get past those masculinity rules, you know, he always chopped the wood to make sure the fireplace was together. He was always going to work. There was always food on the table. So that poem talks about the struggle of Black men to communicate love, but they're always communicating love through their actions. So I think that what we have to look at too is that men are very behavioral. So we may not say I love you, but our actions will dictate and manifest the love that we see. And I thought about just the personal struggle to find a song, because I was like, okay, the only song I could think of outside of Robert Hayden's poem was Gil Scott-Heron in the 70s for his daughter did a song, Daddy Loves You. And I thought about, okay, let me go to Motown. What Motown hollering about? You know, I thought about that 1973 release. Gladys Knight and the Pips actually has 2 songs about fathers, but it's very melancholy. You know, one of the songs talks about this child needs his father, daddy not there. The other song is daddy cuss all the time. So I'm like, okay, I can't go to Motown in that world. So I was perplexed, and I think that the most powerful thing and why it is not given a space, Black men loving their children and other Black men is the most revolutionary act that I don't think we even understand how big that is. And so with systems, you're never going to they're never going to give credence to the things that free us. If we openly express love for brothers and other Black men express love for other brothers and their children, it would change the world. And we're not about changing the world, because I have to just be frank. The work I do with Black men is not appreciated. And it's not appreciated because it's new to support brothers psychologically. And we just don't believe that it's something that we need to fund or give credence to. Now, I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about from a systematic level. It is not something that is seen as something that they want to support. So imagine everyone does not have the coping strategies to deal with resistance. So you have all of these men wanting to express themselves, but without the psychological coping strategies to know how to push through resistance.
And I think that somebody has way too much more to gain financially by keeping us down like that, by keeping us disabled, because it's a disability. If you're unable to love yourself and to love people that look like you, especially other Black men, that's a disability. Because it keeps you stagnant. It keeps you stagnant. I know like J. Ray, you were saying earlier about having to work on yourself. I've had to, what I do is I do the 4 agreements, right? Every time I come in contact, especially with another Black man, that I feel like, okay, there's some disconnect in the space that we're in, even if it's just in passing. But the 4 agreements keep me remembering, okay, I'm not going to assume anything about this brother, and I'm not going to take anything that in this moment personal, because I just don't know what he's going through and what he's been through. And that takes a lot of empathy. And the bottom line, like you were saying, Dr. Ed, I think the bottom line is like we just don't have a lot of empathy for each other, and the rest of the world doesn't have a lot of empathy for Black men. And so, and that comes out in our music or lack of music, because in hip hop, I'm thinking about all the father songs in hip hop. We were going over what we got: Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs, "Be a Father to Your Child," which is basically chastising somebody for not being a father to their child.
Right.
Then you got "Naughty by Nature," "Everything's Gonna Be All Right." His dad was a deadbeat. Then we got Shaquille O'Neal, "When My Biological Didn't Bother." We got all these different songs. We've got some songs, but they're really not, it's really not giving what it's supposed to give as it comes to appreciation and empathy for Black men who have brought life. And as we wrap up, Dr. Ed, I want to, if somebody is on the journey to becoming a father, but they're not 100% certain about it, or, for lack of better terms, I don't like my baby mama, those kinds of incidents, when the bullet has come out of the chamber, you can't pull it back. So if we're in that space and you're about to become a father, is there something you can, a tip you can give to somebody who may not have the best relationship with the person that they're about to be co-parenting with?
I got teary-eyed because I've been there, right? The one thing that I thought of, and that was impressed upon me by other Black men in my life, my father before he passed, and even other mentors that have been fatherly to me, is that a Black man in America has so many psychological strengths and so much resilience that you are prepared to lead anyone. Okay. Just think about what you have gone through as a Black man. It prepares you for every psychological battle that will come before you. Fatherhood is instilling hope and maintaining hope in another individual to give them not only resiliency, but the ability to define themselves for themselves in a system that forecasts their demise. And what does that look like in real time? So I made a purposely and conscious effort to throw out anything from my father that I thought was negative. My father grew up poor, went on to Morehouse, so he had a few respectability politics things, not a lot, but a few I need to remix because that black class thing was in there. So I was like, I ain't gonna do that.
Hey.
I'm a little more grandma, I'm a little more Southern sweet tea than my dad. You know what I'm saying? But what I said that I was gonna do was make a space for my son to be emotionally available, and I was gonna be emotionally and psychological present. I have been chastised from my own family because my son talks to me about anything. He expresses his emotions. I've been comfortable with my son crying since he was born. I tell other people, allow him to express himself. I don't care if he cries. And so I look at, okay, so what does giving my son a space to be emotionally available? Let's test the theory to see if it's worked. My son this year, academically, principals list, straight A's. He don't even really like school that much, right? Excelling in school. He got the respect award for respecting the humanity of others and having integrity. So I look at what this has done for him. He auditioned for MJ the Musical. He didn't get it, but he's performed in several programs and spaces, and everyone knows my son and says that he shows up as himself. The confidence that I have given him and not putting any boundaries behind his emotional expression has led to him discovering himself. He's not scared to challenge me in good ways. He's not scared to say what he needs. He's not scared to correct me. Okay, you said it was this. I did the numbers. It's actually this. And most of the time he's right. But you don't get that kind of relationship unless from the cradle from the cradle that you give your son the avenues to express yourself. Because me and my dad didn't hug to my 30s. Okay. So just imagine not remembering getting hugged into your 30s, to the point that every time I saw my dad the last 10 years of his life, we hugged. And a couple of days before he passed, he gave me one of those hugs, y'all, that it went through me. Like I felt the ancestors coming out of his back kind of hug. He died a few days later. So I think that's what we give Black men, is just the space, grace and space to be who you are, to emotionally express yourself, and that vulnerability is a strength. So one thing that my son knows, he can be vulnerable with me, and I'll show you how else it plays out. When I go pick up my son, you'll think I have 20 kids. Kids are always running up to me, hugging me, Dr. Garnes or Mr. Garnes, because something that I give off is love just by interacting with them, going to my son's games. You know, everyone asks, are these kids your kids? No, but it's something. It's something I've given my son, and it's something that young people have always been attracted to, that they know that they can be vulnerable in my presence. And so I think that when we model that for young people and adults, you know, I allow people to be free.
And shout out to you for that, because what I got from what you just said is a couple things. One is you've got to be intentional. You're intentional with everything that you do. And two, you've dug deep and you've tapped into the humanness of you and tapped into that empathy that I spoke of earlier. And that's just something that we're just going to have to try and do. If we can't do it, if other people can't do it, we're going to have to do it for them. You know, give them a little bit of what we got, give them a little bit of the empathy that we have. So I don't know. This has really been a great conversation, Dr. Ed.
And I would say music has been important. So I played jazz. I played certain music when my son was in the womb. So he came out loving Coltrane, Miles Davis. So a lot of our communication is through music. You know, while he's attracted to Coltrane, Coltrane's horn emotes. Yes. He's known for dripping elements of Black spirituality and freedom in his work. So it makes sense that he's attracted to music that makes him free. But I'll give you a perfect example in closing, y'all, that really showed me that it's working. So when he found out that he did not get the MJ musical role of Michael Jackson at 10, this boy was distraught. Yes, I'm talking about you. And I had a conversation. I let him cry. I didn't tell him to stop. I mean, he was, just emotional, right? I told him it's okay, and I gave him the words of my father: "Don't let someone's no prevent you from telling yourself yes, and your talent will make room for you." Yes. So 2 hours later, I'm hearing jam, all this other music. This boy in the sweat, crack. So what I taught him in that moment was, it's okay. Another opportunity will come. Just keep working. And so that showed me, this was on Father's Day. I was all messed up. I said, you know what? Well, I must be doing something right if he got back in the saddle and said, I'm going to pick this back up and keep practicing.
Yeah, Ed, absolutely. We love that, because that loving that you can teach that, right? And so, and that can be passed on, and it's just one of those threads that will stay with him forever, and that's like beautiful. And I do want to shout out on this show our brother Kariga Bailey, who is co-host of Soul Affirmations with Kariga and Felicia. Kariga is really good about talking about being a father in his music. He actually has a new song out that was released a couple of months ago that we'll
That's
make sure
right.
that we put the link in the description, because yes, it is important that Black men talk about the experience of being fathers and experiences with their fathers, and of all of the expressions and experiences that folks have, because we all have different experiences in that regard. And I think we need all of those conversations out there, because we're leaving blueprints for folks. And we just can't go, we have to disrupt. If in 2023 we can disrupt the narrative that about Black fathers being absent and that kind of sitting in the music, we just need more folks having conversations. And I think we have made the case for why that's important on this show.
Absolutely. And making people like Dr. Ed visible. Because the
Yes.
more visibility, the more we put that stuff out there, the more truth is evident, and then people can't say, oh, well, that's a lie. I've got 5-10 examples of great fathers. And so, J. Ray, like I said, we picked the perfect person
Yes.
to be on this episode. It was like a no-brainer. We were like, Ed. And,
Yes.
just simultaneously, Ed. And we're so thankful that you could shed your light and your perspective on this conversation.
Mhm.
But before we let you go,
Mhm.
June is not only about Father's Day,
Mhm.
June is also Black Music Month. And this past Monday, a few days ago, we celebrated Juneteenth,
Mhm.
which is a national holiday now. And we want to shout out Naima Cochran,
Mhm.
who is at Naima on Twitter, who has created the Black Music Challenge. And we're following it. We've been following it all month. And over the past few weeks, there have been different song challenges that have come up. And so today's question, we're each all going to answer this question. The question that's coming up is, you can you still remember the first time you heard this song? And you answer the name of the song and when it actually, the first time that you heard it, and what is around that, what is surrounding that. So I say we let our guest.
Yes.
Well, he ain't a guest. He's family.
Yes.
What am I talking about? But we still gonna let him get the
Yeah.
big piece of chicken and let him go first.
Yes.
Dr. Ed,
Okay,
what
yeah.
is that song that you remember and the first time you heard it?
So I'm a Ralph Tresvant sensitivity brother.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I was writing poems for women back in the day. I was writing other brothers' poems. So I'm a hopeless romantic.
You was
So
writing other brothers' poems for him,
I
Ed.
was writing other man.
You Cyrano de Bergerac.
Right.
Hey, it's a lot of marriages and babies that came off some Ed right now.
Okay.
So I'm really gonna make y'all laugh because I did not know this person's name. But when I heard "You Remind Me" from Mary J.
Yes.
You remind me, yeah, of sweet men. Woo! Got in my soul, right? I remember being in Jackson, Mississippi in my aunt's car and losing it. Because in Mary J's voice, I heard the Black church, I heard pain, but I was sweet on this girl, and that was the song. When I tell you, we was at it was a Sam Goody Peppermint, and the funny thing, y'all, I was saying Mary J. Bleach. They was like, "Oh," I said, "This girl, Mary J.
Who is Mary
Bleach,
J?
man."
Who is Mary J. Bleach?
Who is that?
Because this is when you could get the cassette singles.
Yes.
I was like, I
Like the
got
single.
to have the single, right? I got that tape. I don't even know if my aunt knows this story. I drove to the girl's house, right? I think I may have had a learner's permit when this came out.
Yeah.
And I pulled up and blasted that song, and I had my summer crush off of You Remind Me. And I played the H out of this song.
Yeah.
I just think about it right now. You know, I'm getting misty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that song, like Mary J is like my big sister, auntie, cousin, because I have always been connected to her on a spiritual level. And so You Remind Me, you put it on right now, I just have to testify.
Yep.
So that's my
man.
I love that. J.
In
Ray,
Mississippi, in the car.
In Mississippi, in the car, at a Turtles or Peppermint, one of them, or Camelot. Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige. For
Let's
me, and
yours.
I've talked about this actually. It's been a while, but I talked about this on the show. But it led the first time I fell in love with hip hop. And so I was in the 6th grade and in Miss Carol's class, and Wani Lovett, who's one of our day ones. Shout out to Wani.
Mm-hmm.
And Wani had a videotape of videos that she had, taped on the thing. And Light as a Rock came on by MC Light, the like house version. I can't remember the name of that mix, but I will never forget watching that, hearing Light's cadence and being like, where I want more of this. So yes, Light as a Rock, sitting in Miss Carol's class and listening to that song made such an impact on me, and actually includes one of my favorite hip hop verses ever. And started me on my hip hop journey. So that was 1988. And I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. All right, so I guess that leaves me. So it's funny you were talking about fathers and fatherhood. So the song, my memory connected with this song is because I became aware of my father, who my real father, I had not had any connection with. And I think I was 19 when my mom was like, okay, I think you're old enough, this is the name. Let's try and use this avenue to try and contact him so you can have that part of your life. And we sent out, I'm dating myself. We sent out, this is snail mail. Yes. So we sent out a letter to a place where we were thinking that somebody would have some connection to get the information to him. And it was returned to sender, and it came back and it said that person is deceased. So there's a possibility that my father, at 19, I found out that my father may have already passed away, and I didn't get a chance to meet him. So I dealt with that the best way I knew how, and continued on. And around the same time, Queen Latifah's Black Rain dropped, the album. And I will never forget getting that cassette. Yes, kids, cassette. Getting that cassette and being up in my room, dealing with this kind of wall, this invisible wall that I didn't even know was there. And then going through the album and hearing that it was a darker album than what we were used to from Queen Latifah. And J. Ray, Dr. Ed, the song that came up was Just Another Day.
Yeah.
Which has the Janet Jackson, it's Herb Alpert sample of
is it making love in the rain? Yeah.
Right. And so that, coupled with Queen Latifah's vocals, which remind me of the I3s, Rita Marley and her singers that would sing back up with Bob Marley. So it kind of had that reggae tone, but very spiritual, and just something in that just spoke to me and really evoked something in me. I'm hearing her lyrics, knowing that she was dealing with the death of her brother at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that song impacted me something serious to the point where I think I started crying the first time that I heard it.
Yeah.
And that song I rewound it so many times. Like, that album really has a significant impact and has a significant place in my life because of that moment in my time. And I'll never forget being up in my room, 1994, and being 19 and just melding, having that emotional moment with Queen Latifah up in my bedroom.
Wow.
Living in Decatur off of Wesley Chapel at that time.
Wow. Please, y'all, make sure that you follow. There's still time left to follow the Black Music Month Challenge. If you type in hashtag Black Music Month Challenge, it'll come up. And make sure you shout out at Naima. That's at Naima for creating this challenge, because these are some thinking questions. Like, it's not just whatever, right? These are things that are making us think.
And they're fun too. Like, the last one I answered was about guilty pleasure songs. And so we just dropping video clips.
What was your guilty pleasure song? What's one?
Oh, there's 3 of them. So I got Juicy Got You Crazy by Oak Towns 357. But I don't feel guilty about it.
No,
that's the funny thing. I don't feel guilty about them. I absolutely rock with those songs to this day. 2 Live Crew, Move Something. And MC
That's a great song.
And MC Shy D's Shake It. Love, those bring me joy. People say A. Marie. When they hear A. Marie, that signals summer for them. Whenever I hear Move Something by 2 Live Crew, that signals summer for me.
So, fun story. So, Move Something, I'm pretty sure was on that same tape that Wani had. I probably heard Move Something for the first time. Then we have to do a whole other show about just the diversity of hip hop, right? So you got a Miami, you got a New York happening, there was probably Def Jeff, so you got a LA happening, right?
Oh,
it was just so different. Real quick, my guilty pleasure song, because I was thinking about answering that one and I just didn't. My guilty pleasure song is definitely Moves Like Jagger.
Really?
I really am into Moves Like Jagger. By what's their name? A Maroon 5.
Maroon 5.
Featuring Christina Aguilera. It's a lot happening. It's a guilty pleasure song. I love it. But I don't feel guilty. I'm telling y'all, like, Moves Like Jagger, I'll dance to that. So
that's knocked away up here, J. Ray.
Yeah.
I'll remember.
Yo.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a phenomenal show.
Yes.
Due in part by our friend, Dr. Ed Garnes. We are so thankful that you joined us for this episode. I really think this is like one of those episodes that people have to share with your friends, y'all.
Yes.
This is the kind of episodes that you need to share with your peoples and get a conversation started.
Yep.
Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to spark these conversations with everybody. Dr. Ed, how can everybody keep in contact with you and how do they check out Reclamation Point? All of the good things. Let them know.
Well, I'm always for hire and consultation. I'll say that. You know what I'm saying? Bring your checks and support to me. Okay. So you can follow me, because we have to acknowledge, it takes money to do these things. All right.
Yes.
So I'm claiming that out loud.
Listen, you got a whole family. Listen, we get it, bro.
Private tuition is kicking my tail. All right. So you can find me on all social media outlets. Dr. Ed Garnes, Garnes, like Barnes for G. So Dr. Ed Garnes on social media. You can also find me and Motown Lee's podcast, chart topping podcast, always in the top 100. Was number 1 in mental health on Good Pods, November of 2022. All right, so we have got number 1. Thanks to you all. So you can find Reclamation Point on YouTube, and you can also find it at other podcast services like Spotify, Good Pods, also Apple Music. So Reclamation Point with my big brother Motown Lee. I'm always available to talk and consult. And I appreciate this, y'all. Whenever I can run my mouth with family. But one of the things that I love about being here when we talked about what do Black men need, this show is Ambi nominated, right? I think I
Yes.
said it right.
Yeah, we are Ambi
Yes,
nominated.
that's
Yep.
correct.
This is why it happened. Not only are y'all musical encyclopedias, it's the love that you all have for one another that creates the spirit of the show. So you all are actually modeling what love for Black men should look like, because absent your relationship and love, this show doesn't work.
Wow.
Man.
Okay, I was not expecting that, Dr. Ed. Man, okay.
Thank you.
He's trying to evoke some emotions out of us today, but so let's do this.
Like what's crazy about well, thank you. I'm a echo what Sir Daniel said. Thank you so much.
I received that.
And I also received that. What's so crazy is before this is actually about to do a thing. So before tonight's show, before we were doing the run of show, I actually was with my mom. We went to my cousin's house. So my cousin, her stepson just passed away, and today was the funeral. And Black mamas, she was like, I gotta take the card. And I was like, oh, can we take it tomorrow? And she was like, well, the funeral was today. And I'm like, okay, well, come on. I gotta be back for the show though. Whatever. We went over there. And so my cousin's husband, it was his son that passed away. And we are just getting to know them for like the last 2 years or so. He gave me the biggest hug. And we were just chopping it up as just two Black men sitting there. He just lost his son. And he was pouring into me in his grief. And I'm like, wait. Wow. And I think you are just once again pouring into us. Thank you for that. Because we have to do that for one another. We have to pour into each other. And that just brought that up. Because that happened right before this. So yeah.
Thank you for that, J. Ray. And let the people know how they can continue to pour into us and Q Points podcast before we wrap up.
Absolutely. So definitely wherever you are listening right now, one, if you've gotten to this point in the show, thank you so much for getting to this point in the show. That means you really love Q Points, and you definitely should be subscribed, and you should probably be sharing the show with folks. So go ahead, hit subscribe, and make sure that you share it with folks. Visit our website at qpoints.com. Click the subscribe button to become a Q Points insider. And you can also shop at our store, store.qpoints.com. And yeah, stay in touch with your boys.
Absolutely. So, what do I always say, J. Ray? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
I am J. Ray.
And that is Dr. Ed Garnes. And this has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We will see you on the next go round. Peace.